Hi, I'm Sherry Strong, food philosopher, author, and illustrator of Return to Food, the Life-Changing Anti-Diet. In the video today, I'm going to be talking about one of my first illustrations as I went into kind of the second dimension or evolution of the illustrations I did. And it was one of the ones that I really put my heart into it. And it's this one on page 16, you will see, called What We Fill Our Children's Bodies With. Affects how they think, it affects how they feel, and it affects how they behave, and it affects who they are. And I would also hesitate to say, or I won't hesitate to say, it can actually impact who they become. And that certainly was the story for me. So my story around food led me to do what I'm doing. And it also set me up for a certain relationship with food. Being born into a family where I was actually fed what I call this lethal recipe from birth, set me up for addiction. Most baby formulas are made with refined sugars, oils, salts, grains, and chemicals. And this really is not sufficient to build the baby, the immune system, as healthily as human breast milk from a healthy woman. And nowadays we have so many complications to our bodies and the environment that it's almost baby formula has become a necessity, and we have used it to adapt to our lifestyle rather than looking at what is first and foremost best for the species. And I realize that this is an incredibly emotional subject, incredibly emotional, and it triggers everyone. And many people will actually say, so I'm going to say it just in case someone else does, is that if you don't have children, you don't know. Well, absolutely, that's true. If you've never had children, you could not actually know the pressures of motherhood. And so I'm not actually talking about this from a place of judgment, of knowing what is good for you, what's good for your body, what's good for your baby, etc. What I'm just saying is that we are born as a species to depend on mother's milk. And when we start off birth, and particularly they say in the first week, 7 to 8 days, that's where it's most essential that the baby's actually getting mother's milk. And it sets them up for all kinds of health and immune system function and gut function by actually doing that. In fact, coming through the birth canal does that. But many times we've adapted as a species to help some people survive by doing things. Thus, C-sections, cesarean sections started with Caesar and many years ago, and then baby formula. And then what happens is it becomes a form of fashion, in fact, and it can become something that's done to suit our lifestyle rather than what's ultimately, done to set the child up for health. And those issues aside, even when it comes to feeding our children food from packages, what we're seeing now is all kinds of issues that are actually happening because genetically, the more we move away from what I call nature's principle and eating close to nature, we're actually starting to weaken the gene pool progressively. So then when we start to add environmental impacts to an already weakened gene pool, we're seeing an increase of an incidence of lifestyle diseases that's just on this exponential rise, huge rise. And really so much of it can actually be prevented by, and certainly reversed, by starting to return to eating the food that nature designed for us to nourish, energize, and protect us. And to get rid of what I call this lethal recipe, this highly processed cocktail of ingredients that once were natural, but are definitely no longer natural and could never be made or replicated in nature the way they are in laboratories and plants. And when I talk about it, I'm talking about industrial plants, not natural plants, okay? So developing a healthy relationship with food, which is what Return to Food is all about. It's really about getting our thinking back, to start to turn our thinking back to a much more natural way of relating to food, our body, and the environment. Because the way we're relating to it now is completely unnatural, and as a result, it's unsustainable. Because when we start to disconnect from nature and how things are made from nature, we no longer understand how it works in the big picture of things. So coming back to the illustration and what we fill our children's bodies with, it's a highly emotional issue. It's highly charged. And I'm not here to tell you what to do, to judge you. I'm here to plant a seed of a question. What are you filling your children's body with? Is it something that's going to nourish, energize, and protect them? Or is it just filling their body with some volume and just to say that we've actually put food into their body? That's a big question, because sometimes it's actually healthier to let a child go hungry than to give it the lethal recipe. And sometimes we are doing it from the best of intentions, thinking they should just have something in their tummy. But if that food has toxic and addictive ingredients, we're actually setting our children up to create the right circumstances where disease can thrive. And I know no mother wants that. No parent wants that. We want our children to have the best chance in life possible. And so if that means they go to school with an apple in their hand versus something that's cooked warm or cereal or anything else, that apple is going to be infinitely more powerful in their body than highly processed food. Know that sometimes the simple solution, what we would find readily available in nature, is a much better option than some complex processed food that's being marketed as healthy. Every single meal, every single bite, we have the power of choice to nourish, energize, and protect our children's bodies. It's not the easy path to make those choices. Nowadays, with convenience foods, so much more readily available, choosing the thing that is best for our children is actually not the easier option. But I promise you, like everything in life, usually the most easy option is rarely the best thing for them. But I promise you, every time you make that choice, you invest in that choice, it will pay off. And what you'll notice is the more your children are off of the lethal recipe, they're going to actually normalize in their brain function, because their brains are getting food that really nourishes their brain and gives it what it needs to function well. Their moods are going to become more even. I can't tell you how many times where I've witnessed children behaving quite naturally, and then they have something from a drive-through and they start bouncing off the walls. I've seen it so many times. It's just a fact of life that when you give children highly toxic, addictive food with chemicals in it, it creates a disturbance and imbalance in their body. And their poor little bodies, can only contain so much. So sometimes they have to bounce off the walls to work it off. And it's also communicating to us. What your children are eating will show up in how they behave, how they think, how they feel. And I know every parent out there truly loves their children, their child, and wants the best for them. And the great thing is the very best thing that is for them is the best thing for you. So we actually build everyone up in the family when we choose nature's principle over the lethal recipe. That's a heavy subject, and I want you to know that I say everything here with my ultimate intention is to come from a place of love and not judgment, and to know that it's not the easier option. And I am such a human of convenience. I completely understand the temptation to choose the easier option, but I want to plant the seed and inspire you to maybe just choose the apple over the cereal, the packeted cereal, okay? Choose the salad over the takeaway sandwich or burger or Subway, right? Choose the option that is going to give your body, your children's body, those beautiful, amazing, literally thousands of compounds that are going to nourish, energize, and protect it. And as always, to serve that meal with a dose of love. That way you can't possibly go wrong. So if you'd like to find out more about how to develop a healthier relationship with food, your body, and the planet, with recipes and resources, go to returntofood.com. It's been an absolute pleasure sharing this with you. I'm Sherry Strong, author, illustrator, and food philosopher.